the Amherst kitchen table of Hampshire College astronomer Dr. Salman Hameed, Mr. Universe, bumped to Wednesday because of the Merriam-Webster Word of the Year coming out on Monday. The Merriam-Webster Word of the Year, as we learned, polarization, which has a very different meaning when it comes to why it was Word of the Year, but has an astronomical meaning as well.
Well, I thought it would be really cool. Like, finally, there's an astronomy word, the way the light gets polarized in certain ways, including, I think we may have talked about light from the image from the supermassive black hole, the accretion disk around it near the event horizon, and that light in itself, that light, got polarized in a particular way in a particular angle. Mm-hmm. And so astronomers like to talk about polarization.
Well, there we go. There's a positive aspect to polarization in this country and the world, too.
And if you want to reduce it, you can always get those sunglasses. Like, the polarized light.
Sunglasses. Yeah, I think I have those, actually. They make water look amazing in the summertime. You are also, a quick aside, my son, Peter Cratchit, in NEPM's production of A Very 413 Christmas Carol starring Elizabeth Perkins as Scrooge. Thank you for doing that last week. That was really fun.
Thank you for having me there. And all I can say is, Papa. Oh, Papa. Thank you. That was the acting.
Salman had to call me Papa over and over again. And it was nice. And Emily Brewster was also my child. Yeah, Tiny Tim.
A lot of fun. I have to say, it was just, and working with everybody from NEPM, all these people who I was meeting for the first time. I had heard their voices a lot, but it was, I have to say, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you, listener, will be able to hear it on the radio the week leading up to Christmas, and then I think on one of the weekends, too. So be on the listen out for when that will air. But we are talking about what everybody's been talking about over the last couple of weeks, which is Trump cabinet picks. And there is an astronomical Trump cabinet pick that you want to talk about. There's also an astronomical pick, meaning picture, that we're going to talk about too. So, yeah.
Right. So, because billionaires don't get enough hearing, I think that's the most marginal class. There are very few, if you think about it.
They're only the 1%, and so we're not paying enough attention to them.
Exactly. So finally, they're going to get some real voice and influence in the White House, and I think that's good for a marginal class, just a 1%. And so President-elect Trump has announced his NASA pick, and that is, it may come as a surprise, is also a billionaire, and it's Jared Isaacman. Now, he made his money. He's a billionaire. He did Shift for Payments. That was a company, I think, for processing of payments and things like that. But he is a space buff. He himself, I think, he's a pilot as well, jet pilot. And but one of the things that we know from him more is the fact that he has been in space on SpaceX missions, in fact, twice. And the more recent one earlier this year was the one where he became the first person, along with another, to do an actual spacewalk. And this was I forgot the name of the mission, I think Polaris, but nevertheless.
So this is more than just a space tourist. He wasn't going up into low Earth orbit like William Shatner and then just coming right back down. He literally went into space.
Yes.
And well, that's interesting because probably no head of NASA has actually ever been in space, right?
No, they have.
Oh, really?
Yes. But he's not coming from an experience in working with NASA, nor with experience in running a large government organization. And he's also very close to Elon Musk, as you can imagine, because he went on SpaceX. So
SpaceX, which is Elon Musk's private space program that has worked many times with NASA and has been collaborating even under non-Trump administrations with a sort of a public-private partnership about the future of space travel.
Yeah, and he has also, so it's unclear. It's like what will be the future direction under him. He is also the one who has who has proposed boosting the orbit of the Hubble Space Telescope. So because you need to go and sort of and right now NASA doesn't have any plans to do that, and he has suggested before as a private mission that actually he can suggest to do that. So we don't know where things are going to go with him. He himself, he recently said, I can confidently say, this is Jared Isaacman, the NASA pick by President-elect Trump, I can confidently say this second space age has only just begun. Space holds unparalleled potential for breakthroughs in manufacturing, biotechnology, mining, and perhaps even pathways to new sources of energy. So he's certainly coming from a business perspective, and this particular direction is perhaps not that much different from what NASA has been taking anyway. But I think one place to keep an eye on is what will be the continued emphasis on return to the moon or not. And that is because, as I think we talked about a couple of weeks back, that Elon Musk has always been more focused on Mars, and for some people that has been a little bit of a distraction of going back to the moon. And there has been an alternative approach of Mars Direct. And right now, the Artemis missions that are supposed to take Americans back to the moon and Canadians, that has been postponed again. In fact, just this past week, Artemis 2, which is supposed to take astronauts around the moon and bring them back, initially was supposed to be this year. Now it's in 2026, I think April 26, and the landing mission of humans to the moon is 2027, probably late 27. And so we don't know when Jared Isaacman comes in, if he gets confirmed by the Senate, and whether if they're going to scrap it or not, sort of like these moon missions. Or right now, Boeing is also part of it. Blue Origins also has part of it. Or are they going to just go with SpaceX? Everything is up in the air. We don't know much about his policy perspectives. So that would be interesting.
I think that initially, when a return to the moon was proposed, many people who love outer space were like, we already did this. Like, been there, done that, literally. Why is it exciting? Then, when we heard more about the Artemis mission, and Artemis, the sister to Apollo, a female-fronted mission here, which would have been the first woman on the moon, became exciting for all sorts of other reasons. But what is still exciting to you about a mission to the moon versus trying to do what Elon Musk and maybe Jared Isaacman, who is going to probably be the new head of NASA, might want to do, which is Mars Direct?
I mean, there are two ways to think about it. One is, I can give you the answer in terms of the policy perspective in the way NASA thinks about, or NASA has thought about. And that is more about that we need to go back, and this time as a permanent presence on the moon. And which Apollo program was not designed for that. It was just to beat the Soviet Union at the time. And so there is a lot of emphasis on what can be done, and that includes, for example, mining on the moon, going to the South Pole because there is potential source of water over there, and to establish a presence over there and be the first ones to do that. In fact, just last week, Bill Nelson, the current head of NASA, he actually, in fact, said that it is vital for us. I'm quoting the current head of NASA. It is vital for us to land on the South Pole so that we do not cede portions of that lunar South Pole to the Chinese. And so, because China also has plans. So there is this element of space race that is part of that. But if you ask me for why moon is exciting, why moon is going back to the moon would be amazing, and that is its scientific return from it. And because, again, we have talked about it before, the kind of astronomy, for example, that you can do from the moon, especially from the far side of the moon, which is shielded from the radio light from radio communications from the Earth and other kinds of things. And it doesn't have an atmosphere. You can do science from the moon that you cannot do from any place on Earth or even in the nearby solar system. And not to mention, and you can also do if you can get actual samples from the moon right over there. For example, this water that has collected over billions of years in these permanently shadowed regions, that can provide us with amazing clues about the formation of the moon and the solar system. So there are these scientific things. And I should say, as an astronomer and as somebody who was always excited about space, I think humans should go to space. I don't think, and I'm excited about that, as species, we are stepping into this vast sort of space, and the moon is just the first step. My concerns as it comes in in how we are going to do it and why we are doing it. If it is about profits, if it's about exploitation of lunar resources, doing the same mistakes that we have made here on Earth, then it's a problem. And with these billionaires leading these charges, that's where I think the problem comes in. I do want to go into space. I think humans should go to space. But I think it's equally important, perhaps more important, of how we go into space and what values we bring to space.
Speaking with Hampshire College astronomer Dr. Salman Hameed, also the head of Kainaat Studios, teaching astronomy via the means of video to people, most specifically in South Asia. There's Wookie the dog, my favorite little buddy, who's a good boy. You are, Wookie. Apart from all the drama surrounding the Trump cabinet picks and the potential new NASA head, there is a pick that you are showing me that we will describe to you, radio listener. When I first saw it, it looked like if you took a coconut, husk and all, and cut it in the thinnest little slice with the brown rim around the edge and then like a white center. That is a galaxy that we are looking at right now. But this galaxy is called not the Coconut Galaxy, but something not too disconnected, as the place that I learned how to open a coconut by myself was Mexico. This galaxy has a fun nickname.
It's called the Sombrero Galaxy, and it's one of the most beautiful galaxies out there. And it was, well, astronomers are great at names, as Monte, we have talked many times. They look at it, they go like, hey, what does it look like? It looks like a sombrero.
Usually they just give it a number and some boring acronym that doesn't make any sense. But the Sombrero Galaxy, good on you.
Yeah, so it's a bright galaxy. It's amongst, I think, the 20 brightest galaxies in the sky. You still need a telescope to see it. Mm-hmm. But it's called the Sombrero Galaxy. It's about close to 30 million light years away, which in some sense you go like, whoa, it's far. It's a nearby galaxy. Andromeda Galaxy, which is the nearest spiral galaxy, nearest galaxy like our own, is about 2 million light years away. So it's only about 28 million light years away. When we talk about those galaxies that James Webb Space Telescope is finding in the farthest edges of the universe, those are like 13 billion light years away with a B. So this galaxy is nearby. It's beautiful. It's in fact, when I was for my PhD work and a little bit later, I also worked on this galaxy. So it's like it's a personal connection to it. So it's a beautiful galaxy. But one of my favorite images from the Hubble Space Telescope, and that's the one that Monte I'm showing you, that was of the Sombrero Galaxy, but taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. And
the coconut version of the photo.
Right, and it has, the strange thing about that is it has a sort of a large bulge, meaning to say it has a large white light that you see. That is because you cannot resolve individual stars and you see this fuzzy blob of light. But right in the middle, you have this dust lane. And this dust lane is the one that...
it's the coconut shell.
It's the coconut shell, and you see it well. So Hubble Space Telescope looked at it, provided a detailed view of that. But now, as you imagine, the reason why we are talking about it is that James Webb Space Telescope has also looked at it. And what it has done is it has seen through that halo of stars and has revealed incredible details of that dust lane.
And because James Webb uses a different type of light to process this data, we can get different images from James Webb. Hubble is like DVD. James Webb is like Blu-ray. And now our coconut galaxy, the Sombrero Galaxy, does look blue. It's on Blu-ray in the James Webb image.
Okay, now that's just an artificial color because remember, we do not see with the infrared eyes. Our eyes do not see it. So
yeah, and all of these images are interpreted through light that our eyes can't actually see. So all of it is a hoax.
Well, hold on. The Hubble image is actually with the filters that kind of replicate what your eyes would see, but not with the James Webb Space Telescope.
Okay.
That's definitely out. But what it does is it takes out sort of like the large halo of stars, and you can really see this dust, because this dust comes alive in the infrared, in the particular light that James Webb Telescope sees. And it gives you a very close details about what's going on in that disk. And now this is little bit of a strange galaxy. Why people are excited to look at this is because it's a really big galaxy. It has actually several times the number of stars that Milky Way has, even though in terms of size, it's close to the Milky Way. So you have a lot more stars fit in there, and it has a very big supermassive black hole at the center. In fact, it's one of the largest supermassive black holes in the universe, lies at the center of this galaxy. And yet, it is not doing much. It is actually relatively quiet. Why? We don't know. You have this big galaxy, but it doesn't have much star formation, including in this disk. Usually these type of disks are very dusty. That's what we see here. They should have a lot of stars forming in there. And yet, this particular galaxy has a lot less star formation than the Milky Way.
But it has more stars than the Milky Way, so they're already formed.
It already formed, so whatever happened, but now it's not happening. Why not? So the James Webb Space Telescope provides you with a little bit of a glimpse. It's an interesting case where you have all the conditions there. You have all this dust there, which usually is part of star formation, and yet the star formation is very little. It stars just like little percolation of that. So it provides a really good case to study the limits. What is preventing that kind of star formation to really bursting through? What are the conditions? And so, but forget about all this science. Look at the image. So just go, for people on the radio or on YouTube or whatever, you are doing, go and Google or whatever you use, Sombrero Galaxy James Webb Space Telescope, and then look at this image, because and what they have done is there is also a slider on the James Webb site which actually allows you to basically slide between the Hubble image and superimposed on it the James Webb image.
I love doing that. DVD, Blu-ray.
That's exactly
DVD,
right.
Blu-ray.
And it's a beautiful image. But again, just you have to think about that this is a galaxy. When you are looking at this beautiful image, you are looking actually at several 100 billion stars. So the Milky Way has a couple of 100 billion stars. This one has about 800 billion stars. You are looking at them in isolation in some sense. You can think of it, these galaxies were called island universes at one point because people thought that, hey, they are their own universes. This galaxy is like that. You look at it and you would see sort of like here you are surrounded by, you have all these stars around it, surrounded by deep space, surrounded by, in some sense, the vacuum of space. So imagine living on a planet in this galaxy. A lot of fun.
One of my favorite parts of A Christmas Carol, where you played Peter Cratchit, my son, Hampshire College astronomer Dr. Salman Hameed, was backstage, you nerding out about astronomy with a guy who makes his own little worlds out of glass and happens to be married to a flipping astronaut, Josh Simpson. That was really fun for me to eavesdrop on those conversations about both of you getting so excited about the mysteries of the universe, and him and his artistic interpretations of those mysteries, and you and your scientific interpretations. Really, it was really great.
We had to reduce our voices because the
show was going on stage.
We were in the next act, and we were like, okay, but no, that was again much of that. I wish people could hear sort of just in general the conversation around the show more than sort of what was in the show. And Josh Simpson, again, his glasswork is so incredible, and they are inspired by astronomy. In fact, he was giving these business cards which all had actually astronomical images in there, and he's also working on that's what one of the things we were talking about, on potential habitats on the moon, because he was mentioning because the lunar regolith, the lunar soil, has a lot of silica in it. About 60% is silica, which makes glass, and so that's what he does, and he is. I mean, it's just like talking to a scientist, because but he works over there, right? So he has so much experience, and so he is working with other people on thinking about how to use the lunar regolith to produce habitats on the moon, decades from now. And I think it's just so cool.